Okay, namaste, everybody, and welcome to the first session in the new year. So, and today we'll be covering, we are in chapter 2 of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and we'll be covering the Panchakleshas. Okay, as always, I will recap, and my recap will become shorter and shorter, more headlines, so that the continuity is maintained. But as we progress, there's more to recap, so it will be more compressed. Okay. So in the first chapter, we saw Patanjali defined yoga as chitta vritti nirodha, and consciousness or your Atman is pure, or Purusha in yogic terminology is pure awareness. It is complete stillness. But we don't experience it like that because our consciousness keeps getting modified because of contact with the outside world. So it keeps getting modified through what we see, hear, taste, etc. It also gets modified with our mental activity, so thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations. So these keep modifying the consciousness, and consciousness expresses through these modifications so that we do not experience the stillness, which is its inherent nature. And when these modifications of vrittis, they stop, then we can experience the stillness of consciousness. So yoga is stopping vrittis, okay? And there are 5 categories of vrittis. And now remember the Sanskrit terms. One is pramana, which is right knowledge. You see a rope and it registers in your mind as a rope, pramana. Second is viparya, which means wrong knowledge. You see a rope, but it registers in your mind as a snake, wrong knowledge, right? Or vikalpa, which is you imagine something. You imagine, you are in Harry Potter, imagination, Disney stories, you imagine. So imagination is also a knowledge, and it's called vikalp. Nidra is when in deep sleep, there is no knowledge, but you have an awareness of no knowledge also. So therefore, Nidra is also a modification. And Smriti is past knowledge, what you recall from memory. So these are the 5 categories of vrittis. And the method to stop vrittis is abhyas. Abhyas is your yogic practices, your Ashtanga yoga practices, yasana, pranayama, pratyahara, etc., etc. So you keep practicing regularly is abhyas. And vairagya, which is a non-attachment to or detachment from desires and worldly pursuits, right? So these are the methods of reducing the vrittis. And once vrittis are reduced, the mind is calm, then the sadhak is ready for dhyan and samadhi, meditation and absorption. And samadhi itself has got 4 stages. The first stage is the mind is still working and thinking. It's called vitark. In the next stage, the thinking stops and the mind is observing the object of meditation as it is, without imposing on it thoughts and conditioning and preconceived ideas about that object, right? Then the third is sananda, which is reflection. That means that object is reflecting in your mind in such a manner that you don't know whether you are seeing Shiva, if Shiva is the object, or Shiva is seeing you. And absorption in the consciousness, where your eye sense completely goes, and there's no difference between consciousness and you. Your sense of I-ness is gone. It's not I am experiencing consciousness. You have become the consciousness, absorption. So this is the final stage of samadhi. But your karma bijas remain, and that's a gift. There's nothing you can do about it. You remain in samadhi for some time, and at some time, the karmas run out, the bijas are destroyed, and then you have attained moksha. You will not be born again. And the samadhi, the whole chapter about samadhi, the description of samadhi, is addressed to an advanced yogi, a yogi who can get into a meditative state, who is ready for dhyan and samadhi. Okay, but there are yogis who are in the middling stage, who are not yet ready for, they don't have that quietude of mind to be there. So for them, Kriya Yoga is recommended. And what is Kriya Yoga? It had three things, if you remember. The first thing was Tapa, which is the practice of Ashtanga Yoga. If sincere practice of Ashtanga Yoga reduces the hold of desires and the clutch of your ego, your ahamkar, right? The ego identification is loosened. Your your ability to let desires be and not indulge in them is strengthened, right? And therefore the mind is brought to peace. And when the mind is brought to peace, you can do swadhyaya or self-study. And what is self-study? It is simply watching. When we are all adults, all grown up. There are many times you can't think yourself out of a problem. I mean, when you think in a problem, it's like getting into a whirlpool. But sometimes if you just stop thinking and just observe the problem, solutions come. So simply watching is swadhyaya. When you simply watch, you understand your inner mechanism, you understand how your mind works, you understand how vrittis work. So simply watching is swadhyaya. And vrittis are revealed in that. And the third one is Ishwar Pranidhana. Literally, it means surrender all your actions and fruits of actions to Ishwar. That's literal meaning. But it is, being in touch with your inner awareness, being in touch with your consciousness, directly in touch with the consciousness. That consciousness is nothing but Ishwar. Okay. So these are the three steps of Kriya Yoga. And by following Kriya Yoga, the yogi becomes ready to go into Samadhi, right? Today, I'm going to cover what are called Pancha Kleshas, or the five human afflictions. And let me just quickly share my screen so that I will tell you the slides which I will cover. Okay, so we will be covering the shloka which says avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha are the panchakleshas. I'm just telling you this now, and I'll explain it as we go along. And of this, avidya is the breeding ground for all subsequent four kleshas. And kleshas are in four states: prashupta, or they lie dormant; tanu, or they are feeble or attenuated; vichina, or oscillating and alternating; and udaranam, which is active. Okay, we'll cover all this. Then, what is avidya is so very nicely defined, as you've seen, Patanjali defines things very exactly. Is to consider nitya what is anitya, or is to consider eternal what is non-eternal. It is to consider suchi what is asuchi, or to consider pure what is impure. Is to consider pleasurable what is pain, or consider as sukh what is dukh, and is to consider as atman or self what is anatman or non-self. This is avidya. We'll go into some. We'll understand this better. Asmita is identification of the consciousness with the intellect. Consciousness is free and pure, unattached, but when it gets identified with the intellect, then the I am the doer, I am the sufferer, I am the enjoyer, that sense comes in, right? Then raga is attachment to what is pleasurable. Dvesha is aversion to what is painful. And abhinivesha is a very, very strong klesha. It's a fear of death, or more exactly, it is clinging to life. And it is established in the ignorant and the wise alike. It's a very strong klesha. And these kleshas are reducible by involution, prati prasava. I'll explain what that is. And through the practice of dhyana or meditation. So these are the shlokas we'll cover today. Okay. So as I said, the first shloka said, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha are the panchakleshas. And avidya is the breeding ground for the other four kleshas. And the kleshas can lie in four states. One is prashupta, or they are dormant, tanu, or they are attenuated or feeble, vichina, or oscillating or alternating, and udaranam, or active. So the nearest translation of klesha in the English language is cause of pain, but it does not capture the intensity of the word klesha. It's a very deep rooted agony, deep in our being. These kleshas therefore are very universal and very basic, very deep rooted and very instinctive, right? It stems from a subconscious compulsion not to suffer pain. So you don't want to suffer pain and you're covering it up with these kleshas. And the reason it is there is because we are disconnected from our source. Our source is, as the Shastras say, is Sat Chit Ananda. Our source is that we are eternally existent. Sat is existence. Chit is knowledge, consciousness, awareness. We are eternally just aware. We are just simply aware. We are simply a field of pure awareness. And Ananda is bliss. It is not any pleasure of the world which we have experienced. It is much beyond that. It is bliss. But that's our source. But what has happened is we have got disconnected from that. And therefore, we are disconnected from that, and therefore we believe that this matrix of Maya is real, and all our joys and sorrows are in this matrix. So we look for things in the matrix, in the world, to make us happy, etc. Right? And this is avidya. That we are not Satchitananda, we are not the source, we have forgotten that. And this matrix, this Maya, is real. And so this is avidya, and it's the source of all the kleshas. It's the breeding ground of subsequent kleshas. Okay? And they can be there in four stages. Prashupta is dormant. So, I may have a self-image that I am not greedy. I am selfless. I am altruistic. But suddenly I discover that one uncle has died and he has left me $1 million. And then suddenly my greed appears. My selfishness appears. I don't want to share it with my brothers and sisters and friends. I didn't know it was there. It was lying dormant. But when the right soil developed, it showed up. So that is what is meant by klesha, which can lie dormant, right? Tanu is attenuated or experienced very mildly. It is there in a very mild form, but it can slowly mature. Now, this is what many, people who go through substance addiction, they will experience it. So the first desire to have a drink will be very mild, one drink, two drinks, and suddenly so it's there in a very mild, attenuated form, and suddenly it will increase, right? So that is attenuated. So a klesha can lie in a feeble form, but it can blow up later on. Vichina is oscillating. If you're sometimes very happy, sometimes very sad, so you're oscillating between the opposites of the opposite sides of the coin. You're oscillating, right? And udaranam is when it's fully expressed. So some people, when they feel very joyous, they're like bursting out, and when they feel sad, they're very sad. So that is Udarana. It is fully expressed. So there are these four stages in which you will find the kleshas existing. So now, having covered this, now we will cover each of the kleshas. The first one is avidya. So as we said that avidya is to consider nitya, what is anitya. I'll explain all this, don't worry. Suchi, what is asuchi. Sukha, what is dukkha. And atman, what is anatman. Okay. Now avidya is not, avidya, again, the translation is ignorance, but not a not a poor but incorrect translation. Because ignorance is lack of knowledge, which can be made up. You can go join a class, you can read a book, and you can make up a lack of knowledge. It can be covered. It's mechanical, right? But avidya is different. Avidya is lack of awareness. Avidya is when the truth is hidden from you, right? So vidya is a move towards higher consciousness. So this is where this intuition, meditation, dhyan, samadhi, they all come in, right? Because it's a move to a higher consciousness. You move to a level of awareness where you say, this is the matrix, and there's a truth beyond the matrix, right? So in definition terms, avidya is when the Purusha, in yoga, remember, Purusha is consciousness. Pure consciousness is Purusha. When Purusha is identified with the mind, body, and senses, when that happens, then you are in a state of avidya. And once that is broken, you go into samadhi, you go towards enlightenment. All right. So just remember this, this is all design. So avidya is also a design. The matrix is a design, right? And the design is for you to discover your deeper purpose. Why, sochiye, why are you carrying the burden of your body, which is aging, which is getting diseased? Many of you over here are facing health issues. I know that. So what is the purpose of carrying the burden of the body, of enduring the miseries of life? So, and the design is at some point, this will propel your inner being to say, enough is enough. Give me the truth now. And once that kida comes, you can't stop it, right? The very fact that you are here listening to this conversation means that kida is there in you. That the kida may be, it's not prashupta, it's not dormant. It may be mind, it may be tannu, but it is there. It may be vichina, it may be oscillating. Right now it's there. Then after this talk, you go sit with the family and have dinner. It's not there. It's there, but the kida has come in. All right. So this is the deeper purpose of carrying this body and this misery is to propel you to break out and to move towards freedom. All right. And there are four markers of avidya. One is to consider eternal, what is not. One is to consider nitya, what is anitya. So this is to take the transient for the real. Now, life is a one flux. Everything inside the matrix, life is a flux. Inside Maya, life is a flux. Everything is changing. Every moment, everything is changing. Everything is moving, right? Now, if you consider that flux as real, that is what is meant by considering anitya, nitya. So we're considering something which is transient as eternal, and that is avidya. Now, think of it. I'm going to talk to you some metaphysical logic. When something is moving, how do you know it is moving? So if there are two cars moving at the same speed, and the only reference for each car is the other car, there'll be no movement. There'll be no sense of movement. You will only know movement if one car is moving faster than the other car. Then you know, there's movement. All right. So if you take this logic and not think like a philosopher, take this logic to the very down. So there'll be a car which is slower than the fastest car, slower car, even slower car, so on and so forth till the slowest car. And after the slowest car, there has to be something which is not moving. Maybe the road is not moving. So you cannot have just cars moving without something which is not moving. And that something which is not moving is the permanent, is the eternal, is the real. All the others are relative. So relativity cannot exist without permanent is a philosophical truth. All philosophers agree on that. So this is I'm giving you logic, but the truth is that there is something permanent, the substratum, which is the truth, and on the substratum, everything is a matrix. The matrix exists on a substratum, but the matrix itself is not real. When you consider the matrix as real, then that is avidya. The quest of yoga is to find that permanent substratum and to abide in it. So that is the first thing. The second thing is to consider pure what is not pure. Now here, important thing to understand, we're not talking about morality. Yoga, Tantra, etc. do not talk about morality. Do not talk about morality is a human convention. And morality is relative. In some societies, you can live without getting married to a woman or a man. In some societies, you should get married, etc., etc. So these are relative, and these are conventions. So I'm not talking morality is a very different thing. It has its place, but it has a place for a society to function. But this is not what we are talking about over here. We are talking about living in sync with our inherent nature. That is pure. When you live out of sync with your inherent nature, that is impure. Now, I'll give you an example. Water. The inherent nature of water is to flow. Okay? When the water is flowing, it's clean, it's bubbling, it's nice. But if the flow stops, then the water becomes stagnant. Once the water becomes stagnant, it becomes dirty, right? Impure. Okay? So, fire. The inherent nature of fire is to burn. So once the fire stops burning, then it becomes dirty ash. Okay. So this is the meaning of dharma. Dharma means to figure out what is your true nature and to live by your nature. If you live in synchrony with your nature, in harmony with your nature, then you will go up. Okay, you'll be pure. You'll be in harmony. But if you live against your true nature, then you're caught in the matrix. So what is the true nature of all of us? The true nature of all of us is Sat Chit Ananda. The true nature of all of us, very simple language, is we are spirit, and we are not this body. We are not this mind. We are not this emotion. This body, mind, our thoughts, feelings, etc., are transient. They keep changing. What we really are a spirit. So if we live in sync with that reality, we are pure. If we live out of sync with that reality, that we are body, mind, and body, mind, and our emotions, then we are impure. All right. Then the third thing is to consider pleasurable what is painful. So the wise say that that even what is pleasurable will turn out to be painful in the end. So anything worldly will turn out painful. So the wise have figured that out. That what appears to be pleasurable will ultimately turn out to be painful. So they say that what is painful in the end was painful in the beginning also, but we didn't know it. It's just that we didn't know it. Okay. So it's like you plant a neem seed, a mango tree will not grow out of it. No? Only neem will come out of it. So you think that you are enjoying something pleasurable and it turns out to be painful, means it was neem tree in the beginning also. Okay. And you look at everything, you might and even the reverse is also true. What can be painful in the beginning can turn out to be pleasurable in the end. So for example, just a very simple example, that every evening you come at 8 o'clock at night, 7:30 at night, and you have a drink. It's very pleasurable. You have 3 drinks, 4 drinks. Nice. I really enjoyed it. But you keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. Then you will realize, oh my God, what have I done to my body? What have I done to my health? What have I done to my mind? So what looked pleasurable in the beginning became painful in the end. On the other hand, I want to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and do my yoga. Very painful in the beginning. But if you get into the cycle, it's very pleasurable. All right. And finally, to take this transient mind, body, and senses as your Atman is avidya. The body is not yours. Your Atman, as a Atman and as a subtle body, you took birth, you took this life, and you conjured the body from the earth, water, fire, air, and space. The body got conjured. It's not yours. Okay, but to consider that as your soul is avidya. And how do we understand this? Is to watch. From now on, Patanjali Yoga Sutra is only watch. Just watch. So I asked my Guruji, explain to me what is watching. So Guruji told me, Atul, do you understand English? So I said, yes, sir, I understand English. So don't you know the meaning of watch? So he says, watch means watch. Watch means close your eyes and watch. You close your eyes and you're supposed to meditate, but you're thinking of a very beautiful young woman. Watch. You close your eyes and you're thinking your 10 million thoughts are coming in your mind. Watch. You close your eyes and thinking of dinner. Watch. And slowly in this watching, you will watch what I want you to watch. But watch. Train yourself to watch. And not say, what am I watching? What is happening? No, just watch. Okay. So just by watching, this understanding will come. And what is asmita? Asmita is identification with the intellect. So consciousness is pure awareness. It is free. It is unattached. It has taken the vehicle of the body, mind, senses to suffer, to play out its karmas. But this consciousness identifies with the vehicle. Swami Chinmayananda calls it the unholy alliance between the Atman and the Chitra. The unholy alliance between the consciousness and the mind, right? And once the Purusha is identified with your buddhi or your intellect, then Asmita is born. Once that identification happens, then the I senses comes. Then I am the doer. I am the enjoyer. I am the sufferer. That comes, okay? And on self-realization, this is dropped. Then raga and dvesha. Raga is attachment to things which are pleasurable, and dvesha is aversion to what is painful. And where this is coming from? because, we have identified with our body, we instinctively avoid pain and unpleasantness. So dvesha is stronger than raga. And in that avoidance, you go to the opposite side of the coin and you seek what you think is pleasurable. Because you think you are this body. And what is immediately painful, avoid. What is immediately gratifying, consume. Right? So in yogic practices, dvesha is the first thing which is attacked. Once dvesha is gone, raga will go automatically. So all these yogis and tantrics, you'll see them in their training. They will be taught to live with the realization that body is dirty, that the space around the body is dirty, but live with it without, it affecting you. So that whole training is there to a yogi, right? And as I said, dvesha is the more powerful of the two. So once dvesha is gone, raga will go automatically. But since we are in the matrix, and since we are into avoiding pain because we think we are the body, right? So this seeking pleasure and avoiding pain is the pursuit of our life. That is the almost single-minded pursuit of life, is to acquire pleasurable things and stay away from painful things. That is our whole life in the matrix is about this, right? But when awareness comes, when the higher consciousness comes, there's a complete mutation. You will, as we discussed, that you see that what gives pleasure in the beginning becomes painful in the end, and what may be painful in the beginning becomes actual bliss in the end, right? So it teaches you automatically. You automatically become restrained through this awareness. Through this watching, you automatically become restrained. You gain the inner strength. You gain a joy, a bliss from within, and this bliss from within transcends, raga and dvesha, transcends pleasure. It's a different thing. That kind of the bliss which you experience, the inside bliss, is totally different from the pleasure. Pleasure is, not even 0.1% of that, right? And as I said, it's awareness that leads to this. It's a awareness, it's a non-attachment, it's an inner movement. It's getting in touch with the the center of the inner bliss. And this raga dvesha is also an offshoot of avidya. So as I said, everything is offshoot of avidya. So asmita is an offshoot of avidya, because in asmita, you are taking what is not self as self. You're taking your body, your buddhi as yourself, and not your pure con, not Atman. All right. Raga and dvesha are also the result of avidya, because you're considering pleasurable what is not. Right. And now we come to the most interesting one, abhinivesha. It's the inborn fear of death. It's clinging to life. And it's a very complex klesha. Because if life is suffering, then wouldn't suicide be the most logical option? And I'm not talking about, you can study the Shastras and say, well, not really because of karma, and not really because of karma, because if you end your life, you will have to come back and suffer that, karma which you terminated yourself. So you have to come back. So what's the point of committing suicide? Now, this is through some reading of the Shastras and some knowledge. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, it's instinctive. We cling to life. It's instinctive. You step on the road and one car screeches and you immediately step back. You don't think about it. It's instinctive. You instinctively cling to life. Instinctively, you save your life. If you're drowning, you'll hold on to something. So where's that instinct coming from? And this sloka says that even learned people are not spared of this. This instinct of clinging to life is not the prerogative of the ignorant. even wise people, even saints, they have this abhinivesh. Okay. And there are two reasons for it. One reason is, of course, hope. So when there is suffering, there is hope. It's the opposite of suffering is really hope. When you're suffering, you say, this too will pass, better days will come. And and the hope can also be delusion. We create delusion of heaven with 72 woors if you are of a particular uh, faith, or cherubs, very nice looking cherubs playing the harp if you are on a cloud, if you are from a particular faith, or very tasty food if you are from a particular faith. But these are delusions which you create, that after this miserable life is over, there'll be one paradise somewhere, right? So this is, of course, one reason, more mundane reason, but the main reason is avidya. It is the identification with the body, mind, and senses that makes us believe that death is real. But you can experience in meditation that that is not the case. What happens in death? Your Atman remains. What happens in death? Your Chitta remains in death. You leave your body with your memory intact. In fact, your memory is enhanced, because after death, that memory which comes out of your body can remember all your past lives. Okay, so this is in the Shastra. Of course, I haven't. I mean, we have all experienced death in many lifetimes, but we don't remember it. But all the Shastras say that. Okay, so what is happening? And does the body actually die? The body in this form dies. Yes, in this form doesn't exist, but the body is made of earth, water, air, fire, space. It goes back. So what dies? Nothing dies. There is no death. It's a myth. Death is a myth. So it is with vidya. Once you get this vidya, this abhinivesha will leave you. All right. So what do you do for these kleshas? The first thing is to stop fighting klesha. You cannot fight klesha. You cannot say, from today onwards, I will not be scared of death. From today onwards, I will not be indulging my desires. From today onwards, I won't run away from a foul-smelling street. So it's not going to happen, because these kleshas have a much bigger hold over you, and they will win every time. So don't fight it. The solution is two. One is to, again, just watch. Meditation, yoga. Okay. And it is very easy to watch your kleshas because they're in the conscious. They're not like deeply hidden somewhere in a subconscious. It's very on the surface. So you can observe it. You can observe it. You can see how it works. You can observe your desires and see how it works. You can observe your dveshas and see how it works. You can observe your ego. You can observe all that. And just by watching it, you become aware of the mechanism of the klesha and will loosen its grip and move you towards awareness. This is what is meant by dharana. So if you remember, we will cover it later, that the three steps in meditation is dharana, dhyana, samadhi. This is what is meant by dharana. Watching, observing is dharana. And the second thing to understand is the development of kleshas is an evolution. That means starts with avidya. First is avidya, that the fact that I am Satchit Ananda, I am not aware of it. I've become disconnected with that, avidya. From avidya, because you're disconnected with that knowledge you're disconnected with, then you think that your body, mind, and senses are all that there is. And that gives rise to asmita. Okay? And if body, mind is all that there is, then the only thing to do is to avoid pain and maximize your pleasure. And if all that is all that there is, then you will cling to life. There's nothing else. You'll cling to life. So the kleshas evolved from avidya to asmita to raga to dvesha to abhinivesha. But to get free from kleshas is the reverse process. The first thing you have to get free from is abhinivesha. You have to realize in meditation through yoga, you realize that death is a myth. Your Atman is eternal. Your body was never yours. It is part of the earth and will go back to earth. So abhinivesha goes first. So once abhinivesha goes, means you're not attached to your body. You're not attached to your bedi, rag, dvesh will go. Second, if rag, dvesh goes, then what is there for asmita to identify with? Kuch hai nahi, so asmita will go. And if asmita goes, then vidya will dawn. All right. So this is the knowledge, and so this is where I'll end today. And in the next session, I will be talking about the link between karma and kleshas. I'm open to questions. From now on, Patanjali Yoga Sutra will become more and more intuitive.
Yes, no. Can I ask no, Atul?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, we're talking about consciousness and Atman, right?
Hmm.
But then, from my understanding, a little bit of, or rather my wrong understanding of Gita, the same word Atman is used.
You're muted.
Yeah, depending on the context, the word Atman in Gita means Degam also occasional.
Sorry?
Even though Deh, that is body.
Huh.
The Atman in some context also refers to the body.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know whether you have come across such a kind of a treatise.
Huh.
That is where Atman also represents body.
Huh.
Atman also represents consciousness or the self.
Hmm.
So from the context only one makes out whether Atman refers to consciousness or the Deha.
Yeah.
No? Which is where the Atman is.
Okay, so this is semantical, and it can be confusing, but normally jiva is referred to the combination of Atman and the buddhi and the body is usually called jiva, while Atman is pure consciousness. Usually, okay. So and there are different like for example Charvakas for them there is no pure consciousness. The body is the soul for them. So this gets into a very confusing area. But I think we're talking about yoga. Yoga very clearly differentiating between Purusha, which is consciousness, and Prakriti, which is matter.
In Gita, Atman is also used in the sense of buddhi. Sixth chapter. Uddharet Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadhet Atmaiva Yatmano Bandhu Atmaiva Ripuratmana. That is in the sense of buddhi. So we have to infer in what context it is said.
Exactly. I don't deny that. What I'm saying is, I think the context we are using over here is Purusha and Prakriti, where Purusha is pure consciousness and Prakriti is matter.
There is seldom, very seldom used as Atman.
Yeah.
Usually it is not used as Atman.
Yeah. But I think to make it very simple, because the Indian philosophy has many different philosophies and they have different definitions. But to make it very simple is what is eternal in you is that pure awareness, Satchit Ananda, which we are calling Atman or Purusha. While what is changing all the time, your body, your mind, your feelings, your senses, which are always changing, is anatman. It is not atman. Yeah.
Yes.
But there are schools which believe that, well, everything is atman. Everything which exists, this also is part of atman. Okay.
Yes.
So, but this will become very confusing. So, I think the sense of all this is there is something eternal and something which is not eternal.
Not it.
Yeah. So I'm using it in the very simple
Yes.
concept. And if you go into Jainism, for example, I'm saying it will become very more complicated, because Jainism may that Aneka Anantavad may, so the same thing has got some aspects that are permanent, some aspects which are changing in the same.
They consider Atman as the ultimate. They
Yeah,
consider
yeah,
Atman as
yeah.
the ultimate. There is
But
no
and no, not only Atman is ultimate, there are multiple Atmans.
Yes.
So
There
your
is
Atman is different from my Atman, is different from somebody else's Atman. So if you get into this area, technically it will become very complex. But
Yes.
very simply, it is what is permanent and eternal is Atman. What is non-permanent, non-eternal, transient is Anatman. So very broadly, your body, mind, senses is basically your your body, your thoughts, your feelings. These are transient, they're ephemeral, they come and go, right? So these are something which will come and go. These are transient, while your inner consciousness is permanent, and that inner consciousness is Atman or Purusha.
One more I would like to ask you, Atul. You were talking about the disconnect, right? Of course, looking at practical terms, I wonder whether our system of education has anything to do with this kind of a disconnect. Whereas everyone here has been, earlier, some 200, 300 years back, from what we hear, before the Meghali kind of education came up, we had the Gurukul. I guess more the Indian system of approach to life would have been taught, right? And there again, of course, all the dharma, artha, kama, moksha principles would have been taught, and their relevance to the, the worldly life. And whether the disconnect happens because of this kind of these four, the artha, kama, moksha, everything.
The Purushartha,
the Purushartha, yeah. Or because of the educational system that they have had to follow the race lately, just causes disconnect.
Okay, so very good question. So the disconnect is the design. The very fact that you get a yoni, you're born. You born with a disconnect. So disconnect is a design. Disconnect has nothing to do with Gurukula and all those systems. The disconnect is a design. But to reconnect, our ancient system had a ecosystem or an environment which helped you reconnect easier than it is today. So, when you were, most of us, from childhood, we have been told ki ye tum to Atman ho, So these words are in our normal vocabulary. Yeah. But in the earlier system, in the Gurukula and all that, there was this whole system of education which was contemplative education, which we have lost. Which we have lost. And therefore, you see a lot more disconnect today than there was earlier. But to your question, is lack of Gurukulas causing the disconnect? No, that's not the case. The disconnect is a design. But the system of reconnection was much stronger earlier, and we have lost it today. And perhaps from whatever one can see, we are getting back. The yug is turning, the wheel is turning again.
Kala Chakra is turning.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions? No? Then Then we can end, Rajiv.
Yeah, sure. Bhaiya.
Yeah, we can end.